Hello guys, this is your friend. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto got Tsunade, Hinata, Anko, Sakura, Shizune, Mei, Kurotsuchi, Mabui and Itachi Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Danzo stares at Kakashi's report and their failure to save the cage. He saved the cage and killed a S-rank missing nin with relative ease it seems, he says, tossing the report. Opposite Danzo was Jiraiya and he picks up the report, he's proving his S-rank status. Spring surely has found a diamond among the trash, he says. Indeed. Sasuke has expressed a want to face this ghost, Danzo comments. I don't doubt the Uchiha's ability but rushing into battle with an unknown is worrying, Jiraiya comments. It seems the Spring Daimyo was correct that he wasn't in country, Danzo says and Jiraiya nods. This actress may use this to her advantage to curry favor for alliances with other nations, Danzo adds. She is indeed a good actress. I want her to star in Ika Ika movie, Jiraiya says and Danzo shakes his head. We need to bring this ghost in. I want you to go to Spring and convince Ghost to come to Konoha, Danzo orders and Jiraiya nods, before heading out the window. A knock on the door echoes and it opens to reveal Ino, Hokage-sama, she says. What is it Yamanaka? Danzo states. Ino closes the door and stood at ease. Did Kakashi-sensei report to you my findings? She asks. He did. 2 med nin on par with the former Godime and her apprentices, Danzo asks and Ino nods. The one called Mercy claimed she conned the traitor into teaching herself and Sen, Ino says. And you believe Tsunade could have taught others, Danzo comments and Ino nods, I will look into it, he says. Thank you Hokage-sama, Ino says and excuses herself. Danzo rises from his seat and heads to the window, Ghost may have met these two. What other secrets does this ghost have, he thought. Spring Country. Naruto was on the roof of his main house in a seiza position as numerous clones were going over the scroll Gaara gave him. Hinata was next to him in a similar position as Sum and Hana were out with their ninkin. Yugao was practicing several sword katas, while Tsunade and the others were meeting with Koyuki to look over the shinobi candidates. Naruto-kun, do you want any of us to accompany you to Grass Country? Hinata asks. Naruto slowly opens his eyes and rubs his head as a few clones have dispelled, I don't trust Sasori. However I need him. He is a means to an end, he says. Means to an end? Hinata asks. Naruto lays back on the roof to stare at the clouds, yes. He can help with my objectives and can be an asset to our tiny mercenary band. He says and sighs, I can see why Shikamaru likes looking at the cloud, he muses. Hinata lays back onto his stomach with a frown, he betrayed you Naruto-kun, she says. It would have been too troublesome not to. Shikamaru is smart. He knows what I am but being that he is lazy. It just easier to go with the crowd than walking against the norm. Choji will follow because he a gullible fool. Shino will take the logical path despite the fact the Aburame are shunned to an extent, Naruto states. Neji reverted back to his fate spiel after it was announced about your death. Once he learned the truth. He said fate was rectifying his loss to you. Kiba has been trying to bed me but Sum-sama and Hana-san had been rebuking his actions. It was part of the reason their clan is splintering, Hinata says and Naruto growls. Tenten follows Neji like a fangirl. Lee is such a hypocrite. You brought Tsunade-sama back to Konoha to be Hokage and saved him but the moment he learns the truth. He turned his back on you, Hinata adds, with a small hiss. Naruto softly laughs and flicks Hinata's nose, don't worry about them Haim. We'll deal with them when the time comes, he says. Oi Gaki. We're back, Anko shouts. The pair get to their feet and leap down, following Anko inside where everyone was sitting in the living room. Alright, if Tsunade hasn't already told you. I will meeting missing nin Sasori of the Red Sand in Grass Country, Naruto starts. Is that wise? He is partially responsible for taking the cage, Sakura states. While true, Sasori is means to an end for me. I will using him to lure out Zetsu. If it fails, I'll kill him and move on to another plan. Simple as that, Naruto explains. And if Sasori plays ball and lures Zetsu out, Hana questions, petting one of her triplets. Then Sasori may assist us as a member of Kuroya Yuhi, Naruto says and gets several confused looks. Kuroya Yuhi or Black Sunset is our answer to Akatsuki. We'll be mercenaries in a similar vein to them. We'll collect bounties and grow our reputation, he adds. That is interesting. It garners us notoriety and give us an end to enter say Konoha under the guise of bounty hunters, Tsunade says and Naruto smirks. Exactly. Konoha already wants to meet me. Sasuke will no doubt whine to Danzo and force the issue, Naruto says. Ino as well. She was being very nosy. When we were healing Kankuro-san and Kazekage-sama. Tsunade-sama cooked up the story that we sought her out and we conned her into teaching us, Shizune explains. I bet that'll scare that mummy. Tsunade nin on par with the slug princess. It'll have him wondering about our ghost, Anko states. One can hope for that. Now like the Akatsuki we will be working in groups. Our med team will be Tsunade, Sakura and Shizune. Our T and I strike team will be Anko, Yugao and Hinata. Our tracker team will be Sum and Hana. I will be a single strike team but these aren't permanent and subject to change. Depending on the mission, Naruto explains and gets several nods of approval. So how was with Tsunade and Shizune? Sum says, causing the latter to eep in shock. He can eat you out like a champion, Tsunade comments and Naruto face palms. Anko laughs loudly but also licks her lips. Mama likes, she croons and Naruto sighs, thinking of putting seal on his bedroom door for the foreseeable future. Aim. Diva Pain looks down at his rain-laden domain from the highest tower, his unblinking eyes unwavering in his quest. Footsteps catch his ears and he turns to his faithful companion. Has Sasori been located, Conan? Diva Pain asks. No. Sasori has gone dark, Conan states. What of Deidara's ring? Diva Pain asks. Zetsu managed to sneak into Suna and recover the ring. Security is still under heavy guard due to the attack, Conan says. Diva Pain's eyes narrow at the mention of their failure to capture and seal the Ikibi. What of this ghost? He asks. He is in the bingo book. His origins are unknown but Zetsu and Sasori's reports said. He turned up in spring as some phantom saving the country from genocide by the land of sky. Iwa dubbed him the Ghost of the Flash and the people call him the Ghost of Spring. He used various clones in the battle and used speed akin the Kiroi Senko. Also wielding a pitch-black sword and power enough to sink the floating island, Conan explains. I see. His threat to stop us collecting the Biju is laughable. This ghost will not stand in our way of peace, Diva Pain says. His thinking is not dissimilar to our own. He seems to wish to protect them. Even from their nations, Conan says. It matters not. He is an enemy of peace to stand against us. As God he is a threat, Diva Pain says and turns to Conan. Contact Zetsu and have him find and kill Sasori, he orders. And if he encounters Ghost, Conan asks. And nothing. Zetsu is to kill him as well. Contact the others to keep an eye out for this ghost and kill him should the opportunity arise, Diva Pain states and Conan bows, turning on her heels. Nagato. You are changing too much. Yahiko would be horrified to see you this way, Conan thought. This ghost is threat to our goals, a voice says, halting Conan in her tracks. She turns to a tall and lithe figure with a orange spiral mask with a lone eye, poking from the hooded cloak. He could also be an ally. Madara, Conan says. He fights for a small and weak country. He has prowess in battle but he is a big fish in small pond, Madara states. Then wouldn't it be best to recruit him to our cause, Conan says but Madara's eye narrows. No. Our God has commanded his death and Toby is a good boy, Madara says and a distortion forms around his eye, before he is swallowed. Conan stood for a moment but continues on, I do not trust him, she thought. Spring Country. An hour later, Naruto makes way to the kitchen for breakfast, finding Hinata and Tsunade making food. Morning, Naruto. Naruto-kun, both said, and Naruto waves his hand, taking a seat at the table. Anko won't be joining us for breakfast, Naruto says. Tsunade place a glass of orange juice in front of him, so this makes 4 now, she insinuates, and Naruto sighs with a nod. I accidentally left the seal off my room and she snuck in, Naruto states. So Anko finally caught ya, huh? Hell pup, I might as you to turn me too, Tsume says, strolling up with a shit-eating grin. Naruto rubs his forehead as the others enter. Please don't, he whispers. You didn't force Anko, Sakura says, her green eyes glowering him. It was the other way around. She snuck into my room and they took advantage of me, Naruto says, defending himself, but Tsume laughs. Anko's been waiting for you to slip up. Ha ha ha, Tsume says. So today is the day, huh? Hana asks and Naruto nods, stuffing some sausage into his mouth. I sent out some clones yesterday to scout around and mark a suitable spot to Hiraishin to undercover. Sasori didn't give a specific time other than noon, Naruto explains. Naruto-kun, you should really bring one of us with you, Hinata suggests, but Naruto shakes his head. I'll be fine, Naruto assures. And if Sasori is sketchy, Tsunade asks, and Naruto runs his finger across his neck. The breakfast continues as they eat their fill and break off to their daily routines. Naruto tosses his coat on his bed, before slipping his mesh shirt into his black cargo pants. Next, Naruto slips on a dark blue and skin-tight shirt with dark blue gloves and metal guards on top, before pulling up his mask over his mouth. Naruto-kun, Hinata says, and Naruto turns, grabbing his coat. I need a favor, Hime. I need you to put up a paralysis barrier in the courtyard, Naruto says. For Sasori, Hinata says, and Naruto nods, slipping on his coat. Naruto makes a fist and his hidden blade shoot out. Yeah. He still can't be trusted. Even if he works with us, he says, retracting his blade. Hinata follows Naruto outside to the courtyard. Squatting down, he places a Hiraishin mark down. Just set it up around here. Be back soon, Naruto says and vanishes. Hinata heads back inside and to retrieve her Fuinjutsu supplies, informing the others of Naruto's plan. Tenchi Bridge. Sasori slowly makes his way toward his target but comes to halt as Naruto stood next to a tree with his arms folded. You're on time. Good, I hate waiting, Sasori says, as Naruto falls into step with him. I like being punctuality. Tardiness is a weakness, Naruto comments, remembering his former sensei. However, unknown to Sasori, the former Konoha shinobi has clones waiting and searching for a particular entity. Has Akatsuki come searching for you? Naruto asks. Sasori scoffs with a swish of his tail. I've stayed off their radar for now, but I doubt they have remained idle in searching for me. Zetsu will come searching, he comments. Zetsu? Naruto questions, faking ignorance. He is the Akatsuki's spy behind me, Sasori replies. The pair reach the bridge, but Naruto hangs back behind a tree, his eyes closed and his senses focused. A cloaked figure slowly makes their way onto the bridge, but Naruto ignores their talking, but a smile graces his lips and he vanishes in a white flash, leaving a clone in his place. About a mile away from Tenchi Bridge was a curious and almost out-of-place thing. It resembles a large Venus flytrap, but it wears a black cloak with red clouds. The flytrap slowly opens to reveal a person with a literal black and white side. When do we strike Sasori and his companion? The white half says. Soon, but the companion with Sasori is odd. It's the one who killed Deidara, the black side says. So they're working together. Sasori has betrayed the Akatsuki, white says. Black's eyes narrow, but suddenly a black sword erupts from their body. Found you, a voice hisses. What is this? White exclaims. Naruto rounds them with an amused smile under his hood. Its name is Zangetsu. Zetsu-san, he says, facing the pair. Zetsu tries to sink into the ground but Naruto laughs, don't bother. I've placed a barrier around us. You can't run away as usual, he says. You're the ghost of spring, Black says and Naruto nods. I am. So you were there. Watching like the coward you are, Naruto says. Zetsu tries to move but kanji starts to spread from the sword and onto their bodies. What is this? Black hisses. Old man Hagoromo left that sword and one other to his son Asura with very specific instructions on its purpose. Naruto starts and removes his hood. Hagoromo. How do you know that name? Black says. Naruto slowly reaches for his right glove. Well, I am one of 9 but I am one of a pair, he says, revealing his son mark. Impossible Asura's reincarnation, White says and Naruto smiles. The very same. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze at your service and the new Kyubi no Yoko, Naruto says, revealing his tails. So you've been hiding these last 2.5 years. No matter Madara's will be done, Black says. Stop trying to lie, Black Zetsu. Today is your death day and mommy dearest stays sealed, Naruto says and Black freezes. Ho, I caught you off guard. A first for you. Hagoromo told me everything. How you manipulated Indra into fighting his brother. Every sinister machination in world has had your black fingers around it. All in a bid to bring back mommy dearest, Naruto adds. Mother deserves to live. You are but pawns to bring her back. Kagaya's will is only truth in this world, Black shouts. All you are is a child. Whining for his mommy. You shape the world into a never-ending wheel to bring Kagaya back. An endless cycle of hate and war. However that ends today. I will break that wheel with my will, Naruto shouts, spreading his arms out. A Rasengan forms with flames, slowly growing and growing. In the left hand another Rasengan forms with whipping wind into a screeching shuriken. You are nothing compared to Kagaya's will. You are just another part of the shinobi history I created. A brat like you can never destroy me, Black shouts. He doesn't seem to care, White says, struggling to free himself. Naruto brings the large balls of wind and flames together. You are wrong, Black Zetsu. The shinobi world was built on the lives and deaths of many people. This combined Rasengan will obliterate you to nothing and Zangetsu will destroy everything connected to you. Old man Hagoromo suspected your existence and took steps. Zangetsu and Tensa Zangetsu were forged for that purpose. Disrupting your chakra and poisoning it, he says. For the first time in its life Black Zetsu felt fear, and no. I won't be erased. Mother help me, he shouts. Your shadow has loomed over the shinobi world too long. This sun will root it out. Rising Sun Rasengan, Naruto shouts, bringing it down and engulfing Zetsu in a thunderous burst of flames supercharged by wind. Mother, Moth, Black shouts, as he erased from existence along with White Zetsu. In unknown locations numerous clones of White Zetsu start to shrivel up and die at the loss of their brain. Naruto stares at the crater with serious eyes. Hopefully this is end of Zetsu, but one cannot be careful, he thought, touching a seal on his left hand and pulling. Slowly another black sword with a spiral hilt, but the black blade becomes more curved as it nears the tip, with 3 protrusions along the blunt end of the sword close to its tip. I still have Tensa Zangetsu if needed, Naruto thought and vanishes in a flash of white. Naruto reappears near the bridge and deflects the spiked tail of Sasori with Tensa. Problems, he says. Orochimaru has returned to Konoha and Oto as a protectorate of them as well, Sasori says and Naruto thumbs his chin in thought. That's very interesting. So have you made up your mind? Naruto asks. Sasori opens his Hirako puppet. I'll help you in exchange for Kakashi Hatake and Orochimaru, he says, extending his hand. Naruto takes Sasori's hand in firm handshake. Then we have a deal. Now let's be on our way, he says. Sasori seals his Hirako puppet and Naruto's grasps his shoulder, as they vanish without a trace. Spring. Naruto and Sasori reappear in the courtyard of Naruto's compound, but the latter halts in his tracks, as his body wasn't moving properly. What is this G-host? Sasori says. Naruto turns and removes his hood with a smirk. I just realized something. I no longer need you. Because I caught my prize, he says. Sasori's eyes narrow as Naruto reaches for his mask. What prize? He says. Well, I killed Zetsu. You were superb bait to lure him out, Naruto says, and Sasori's eyes widen but quickly narrow. You used me, Sasori hisses, as Hinata and the others step into the courtyard. Naruto pulls down his mask with a nod. Yes, I did. I could have used Deidara as well. If Zetsu didn't come, I would simply kill the bait and find another member to lure him out, he says. Those markings on your cheeks. You're the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Sasori says. Naruto scratches his ear with a nod. Well, you're half right. I am no longer a Jinchuriki, but I am the Kyuubi though, he says, revealing his tails and ears. You've grown quite cunning and ruthless. No longer a boisterous fool to fool someone as guarded as myself, Sasori says, with praise. I gladly take your praise. With the death of Zetsu and soon to be yours. Akatsuki's spy network is crippled, Naruto says, making a fist and his blade shoots out. I have been checkmated by a brat. One last request, Uzumaki. Take my body to my granny and kill Orochimaru, Sasori says. Naruto rounds Sasori and places a hand on his shoulder. Consider it done, he says, driving his blade through the cylinder in Sasori. The infamous Suna missing nin collapses like puppet devoid of strings as Naruto stares down. All right, Hinata. You can drop it, he says. Hinata places her hands down and channels her chakra, allowing Naruto to move more freely. Success. Zetsu is dead and Akatsuki is crippled for the moment, Naruto says, kneeling down and picks up Sasori. However, Infinite Tsukuyomi is still a threat, Naruto adds, heading to the dojo and the other following. Infinite Tsukuyomi, Tsunade questions. It's the dark machinations of Kagaya Otsutsuki. A worldwide genjutsu to lock all of humanity in a never-ending dream and drain them of their chakra to feed the Shinju, Naruto explains, shocking them all. How could something like that be possible? Anko says. Hana opens the doors to the dojo and Naruto places Sasori on the floor. The Biju were once one being called the Jubi. Zetsu has been manipulating events to see the Jubi return and awaken Kagaya, he states, searching Sasori's body. Zetsu's dead, meaning it can't be done right, Hana says, but Naruto shakes his head. The man who attacked my parents claimed he would remake the world in his image. This Uchiha could still create infinite Tsukuyomi, which makes it more paramount to save the Biju, Naruto explains. Sakura, Tsunade, Shizune, Anko put up a barrier. Could be poison, Naruto says, and the four take 4 points in the dojo. Ninpo. 4 flames jutsu, they shout. Hinata activates her Byakugan to look for traps as Naruto searches for seals. Any traps? He asks. None yet, Hinata comments. Be careful. Sasori is Chiyo's grandson and he could have some odd poisons, Tsunade comments. He doesn't even look human anymore, just a puppet, Sum says, outside the barrier, and Naruto nods. He creates human puppets. I offered him Kakashi and Orochimaru to get him to drop his guard, Naruto says, finding a scroll marked 3rd. The scroll opens but smoke erupts in a puppet with a dark blue hair and yellow eyes, dressed in a marin cloak. That's the 3rd cage. He went missing a long time, Tsunade comments. Naruto inspects the body and black sand starts to emerge and pool on the floor. Interesting. Seems Sasori outfitted him with his signature iron sand, Tsunade notes. Naruto tilts his head in thought but channels the chakra Shukaku gave him. Slowly the sand started to move and shock the others. This will prove useful, Naruto says, hold a large orb of iron sand. How the hell are you doing that? Anko says, and Naruto smirks. Shukaku the Aikibi gave me some of his chakra. It's more than likely because of my Yong's 6-path power, Naruto says, sealing the sand into a blank scroll. Can you do this with the other Biju? Yugao says. Probably, but I would have to commune with them, but some will be very apprehensive, Naruto says, as starts sealing Sasori into a stasis scroll but holds up a strange ring. Why would they be apprehensive? You're helping them, Sakura comments, as they drop the barrier. Remember, the Yonbi and Gobi blame me for Kurama's death and I've only met Matabi, the Nibi and Yugito, Naruto explains. So what now, Naruto-kun? Returns Sasori to Suna, Hinata asks and Naruto nods. Yeah, word will reach Akatsuki of their deaths. I'll take him back to Suna and head to Fire Capital to meet with my contacts, Naruto explains, pocketing the ring. Have you ever gone to the daimyo for aid? He could put pressure on Konoha if needed, Shizune says, but Tsunade shakes her head. The daimyo is complacent in the fall Uzushio. Gigi learned this after acquiring a journal from the last Uzukage. He then confirmed it after the daimyo brought it up after I was born, Naruto explains. So if you became Danzo's weapon, you would unlock all the treasure of Uzushio and your father's compound, Hana notes. Got it in one. Now who wants to come me to Suna and the capital, Naruto says. I am so going. I've been bored here, Sakura says. I would like to go as well, Naruto-kun, Hinata says. Alright, but we'll have to do something about your eyes, Naruto says, and Hinata waves hand. Alright, I would like the rest of you to help out and start collecting bounties. Put the name Black Sunset out there. Dojima has some special cloaks made, Naruto says, and all of them nod. Naruto heads out of the dojo and takes up a seat in one of his larger trees. Kurama step 1 is finished. This should lure out Madara or his faker, he thought. Flashback. Naruto struggled to move in the knee-length water as his body burns with Jiraiya's seals. Over here, boy, Kurama says. Naruto slowly makes his way to the cage as Kurama stares at him. Boy, be grateful for what I am about to do, he says. Grateful. Ero Sennin betrayed me. He's gonna turn me over to this Danzo guy, Naruto shouts. That mummy and feckless toad won't get you. I have put a considerable amount of distance between us and them. Now listen. I have started a forbidden jutsu on you, Kurama says, and Naruto's eyes widen. This jutsu was given to us Biju by my father, the sage of Six Path. He told us only use this to save a truly innocent soul, Kurama states, as cracks form on the gate. What? Why? Naruto shouts. You are a truly innocent soul. You should never have suffered as you did, Kurama says, and a grin forms, so be grateful for this, Naruto, and make sure you kill Madara for me, he adds, before erupting with red light. Naruto cries out in pain as his body is flooded chakra, but before he collapses, two voices call his name. End flashback. Naruto rubs his eyes and looks down, seeing Sakura and Hinata staring up with concern. Naruto hops down with a sigh. Sorry, I was thinking, he says. I'll say. We were calling you for 5 minutes, Sakura says, her arms folded and her hair now in a pixie cut. Naruto looks down and sees a cloth in Hinata's hand. It's for my eyes. I'll still be able to see, she says, wrapping her eyes. Alright. We'll arrive in River City and head to Sunagaku from there. I don't want Flash into Gaara's office unannounced, Naruto says, and both of them. Naruto grasps their shoulders with a shake of his head. Let's go, he says, and the trio vanish. XXX. Among the numerous dunes of the Land of Wind was a horse-sized black fox with 2 white tails. On its back were Sakura and Hinata with full masks on their faces. You can even make a fox this size? Sakura asks. Yeah, I can even go as small as Haru too, Naruto says. An hour later, the three reach the ray of sky and entrance to Sunagaku, dispelling his fox form a few meters away. Halt, state you business, a Jonin shouts. Naruto pulls down his mask but uses a henge on his face. I am the shinobi hunter Menma. I have a bounty for Cage Gaara's eyes only, he says. Alright, but your companions remove their masks, the Jonin states. Hinata and Sakura comply, but the Jonin furrows his brow at the black cloth. My eyes are sensitive to light, Hinata says. Alright, follow the path, but Anbu will be watching, the Jonin says. The three make their way into the village with their silent escorts keeping to the roofs. You saved Gaara but are being treated like an outsider, Sakura comments. It's fine, Cherry. I am supposed to be a ghost, Naruto replies but notices the lockdown presence. Still on high alert, Hinata asks and Naruto slowly nods. They reach the cage tower and their escorts break off to return to their posts. As Gaara-sama in, Naruto asks, reaching his office. The secretary nods and buzzes them in, causing Gaara to look up from his desk as Naruto and his companions enter. Back again already, Ghost and two new companions. Do you wish to tell me something? Gaara says and Naruto rubs his head. This is Cherry and Cinnamon. They are a part of my mercenary group called Kuroya Yuhi, Naruto comments, pulling out a pair of scrolls. Same as Sen and Mercy from the snow, Gaara asks and Naruto nods. The very same. I have a surprise. Sasori of the red sand and the puppet body of the Sandame cage, Naruto says and Gaara's eyes widen, taking the pair of scrolls. I found him in grass meeting with a contact, but the contact escaped in the ensuing battle between us. He was a formidable opponent and a master of the human puppet. His Sandame could use his iron sand, Naruto explains, shocking Gaara. Did he reveal anything? Gaara asks. Just to return his body to his grandmother Chio, Naruto replies. Gaara quietly stares at the scrolls for a moment, before rising from his seat and handing Naruto another scroll. This a proposal for an alliance with Spring Country. I've kept this from the council to keep Konoha in the dark for now, Gaara explains. Right. I'll send it to Koyuki-sama along the way to Fire Capital, Naruto says and Gaara quirks an eyebrow. Just deposit Sasori's bounty into my account, he says. You don't make thing boring. Gaara and Naruto sports a foxy grin, before excusing themselves. Naruto pulls his mask back up with a sigh. Now we'll flash there, he says. The three exit Suna with no issue and Naruto grasps their shoulders before flash-stepping far enough away and using the Hiraishin to make to Fire Country. Fire Capital. Sakura and Hinata gasp as they were standing in a warehouse. Where are we? Sakura asks. Naruto slips off his coat and pulls down his mask. It's a warehouse I own. I actually own several in certain nations, he says. A way to Hiraishin around, Hinata says, removing her cloth. Naruto slowly nods as he unseals a large crate with fruits inside. See a normal storage facility, he says, resealing the crate. So who's your contact? Sakura asks, as Naruto seals his assassin coat and unseals his gray coat. Madam Yumi, Naruto replies and Sakura gawks, as they follow Naruto out of the warehouse. Why Yumi-san? Hinata questions. It's simple really. People have loose lips during and after. Yumi uses her brothel as a hub for information. A great deal of high-ranking people pass through Heavenly Moon, Naruto explains. So like gaining information in a bar or club. Inhibitions lower and people talk, Sakura states and Naruto nods. Got it in one. Yumi taught me the ways of and I asked her keep her ear to the ground for me. Well for a price of course, Naruto states. The trio make their way through town and reach Heavenly Moon within the red light district. Many of the women see him and start flocking towards them. Menma-kun back already. Oh Menma-kun. Join us Menma-kun, several said. Leave him alone girls. Can't you see the glares from his two companions, a voice states. Sakura and Hinata spy a slender, yet voluptuous woman with white hair pinned in a bun, light brown eyes, and a small beauty mark under the left side of her lower lip. She wears a low-cut red kimono, which hangs loosely over her upper arms, exposing her décolletage. She also wears heavy blue eyeshadow and green lipstick with her nails the same color. Hi Madam Yumi, the woman says. Yumi slaps her fan on her wrist with an amused look on her face. So what brings you today with two beautiful women, she asks. Can we talk in private? Naruto states and Yumi nods, beckoning for them to follow. Ino and Hinata follow quietly behind Naruto as Yumi leads them to a private VIP room. Would you girls like to bathe? Yumi comments, sliding open the door, but both decline. Yumi takes a seat on a large cushion next to a low table as Naruto takes a seat across from her. Sakura and Hinata take the other cushions next to him as Naruto picks up the Kaizuru on the table. How are things in the palace? He asks, getting to the point. Yumi's eyes turn serious and she claps her hands, activating the seal Naruto placed. His nephew frequents us. He drinks, whores around and whines about things. His son on the other hand is more loose-lipped. He complains about his father not getting something but never went into specifics, Yumi explains, taking a cup of sake from Naruto. Did he say what? Sakura asks and Yumi looks to Naruto and he nods. Something they have waiting years for. The daimyo keeps that close to his vest, Yumi replies. More than likely Uzushio's riches, Naruto thought, puffing on his kaizuru. You should also know that Toad came last week, Yumi asks, taking a puff of her kaizuru. Naruto taps his ashes with a sigh and plume of smoke, not surprising. No competent woman would touch him unless paid very well, he says and Yumi laughs. Indeed his usual spiel, but he did say something interesting. He heading north to Snow to convince the former actress Yukie Fujika's now daimyo Koyuki Kazuhana to star in his Ika Icha Paradise movie, Yumi states. Naruto shakes his head with a sigh, he never ceases to annoy me, he thought. Anything else of major note? Naruto asks. Yumi takes a puff of her kaizuru. It's been quiet but rumors are flying that the last Uchiha has returned to Konoha. After the death of the Godime and several others, but again no real specifics, she states, causing both girls to scowl. Naruto reaches into his coat and pulls out an envelope of money. Thanks Yumi, he says, clapping his hands and releasing the barrier. Not a problem Menma-kun. Will you stay for a while? Yumi says, rising to her feet and stuffing the envelope between her. Sure, bring us a full course seat and some sake, Naruto says, taking Yumi's spot on the cushion. Yumi excuses herself with a smile as Sakura and Hinata take up seats next to him. Things we knew and more information, Sakura says. Is there no good people in the daimyo's family? Hinata says. His wife maybe, but Tora has shown otherwise, Naruto muses and both laugh. The fact that Konoha is spreading the Sasuke is back among them is interesting, Naruto says, placing the kaizuru down. I bet he uses that to get whatever he wants. I can't believe I had a crush on him. I thought he was so tragic. Losing his family, Sakura says, with a sullen look. Naruto reaches out to run his finger along her cheek. We were kids. Sasuke was strong and the pride of Konoha, he says. The door slides opens as Yumi returns with several women carrying trays. Anything else Menma-kun? A few girls, Yumi asks. Not right now. Thank you Yumi, Naruto says. Yumi bows and excuses herself and Naruto pours himself a drink. Let's forget about certain things and enjoy the spoils. Kanpai, he says, downing his sake along with Sakura and Hinata. About an hour later Naruto was sipping his sake as Sakura was nipping at his neck with a red face. Hinata was wrapped in his coat with red skin and small giggles and muttering of words, hee. I smell like Naruto-kun, she mumbles. Naru baka let's play, Sakura says, kissing in his neck and blowing into his ear. The scent of his grievous here. I need release. Tsunade-sama told me that once she mated with you. All the instability she felt was gone, Sakura says and settles atop him. Besides Naru-kun, don't you wanna make love to your Sakura-chan? Sakura coos, nipping at his neck. Naruto stares at the ceiling with a sigh, is this gonna become a thing? Every time I go somewhere with them, he thought, his gaze on the pinket on his chest and the bluenet on his right arm. Naruto makes a clone and swaps with it, grabbing a robe and slipping it one. He steps out of the room but is met by one of the girls. Menma-san, is there anything you need? She asks. Nothing at the moment, Naruto says, heading to the baths. Naruto washes himself clean and headed back to his room, finding both still cuddled up with his clone. Tell them I headed out, Naruto says, getting dressed but leaving himself shirtless as he slips on his coat. He heads out the window and leaps to the roof, taking a seat with a sigh as the night caresses his bare chest. Tiny movements go up his leg and Naruto looks down to see a small jumping spider. Hello Lucas, he says. Hello. Mama is here, Lucas says. Naruto glances back to a tall woman with an extremely pale and flawless complexion, making it appear like she's almost constructed entirely out of porcelain. She has a curvy figure, with very large, a thin waist, and wide hips. She has long, black hair, worn in an upwards manner with two long strands that frame either side of her face, and eyes that have both completely gray irises and pupils, each containing a black spider web pattern. She is wearing a long black sleeveless dress. However, this dress is incredibly long, in that it completely conceals her feet, while ending in 8 small trailing pieces of fabric like the legs of a spider. A narrow black band encircles her neck featuring a small spider emblem that lies at its front and 8 extensions that protrude outwards upon the back, with 4 emerging from either side. Spider web netting branches the gap between the band and the dress, extending downwards from the aforementioned spider emblem. Hello Arachne, Naruto says, letting Lucas onto his shoulder. Arachne opens her black fan. You know I like to stretch my legs once in a while, she says. HMM. True. So anything Yumi missed? Naruto asks. Other than that loathsome pervert. Pathetic poots of ejaculate. He should arrive in spring within a week. I have a few little ones on him, Arachne states, and Naruto snorts at her joke. Good. Can your little ones sneak into the Namikaze and Senju estates? Naruto asks. I can, Lucas says, and Arachne laughs. I know you can, dear. I can na Menma-kun, Arachne says, catching her slip. Thank you Arachne-sama, Naruto says, letting Lucas down, and both vanish in a puff of smoke. Who was that Menma-kun? Hinata says, standing with Sakura. Naruto gets to his feet with a stretch. Arachne. Boss summon of the spider clan, he replies. I thought you summoned toads, Sakura asks, and Naruto snorts, with a rub of his head. I did, but when I technically flatlined. My name was crossed out despite coming back. Besides, in a roundabout way. The toads betrayed me, Naruto explains, shocking both. The great toad sage told Jiraiya a prophecy about a student he would train would bring about a great upheaval of the shinobi system. Naruto starts and looks up. In his infinite wisdom, he decided to hijack this prophecy and turn it in Konoha's favor, and they unknowingly followed along, Naruto finishes. So Jiraiya went to Sandaime-sama, Sakura asks, and Naruto nods. Yep, but Gigi brushed it off. So that spurred him to go to Danzo and bring it about. He tried with Dad, trying to drive him towards Danzo's thinking, but Mom was there and kept Jiraiya from sinking his hooks into him, Naruto explains. So when your parents died, they had a clean slate with you to mold you, condition you into their weapon, Sakura states. Once Jiraiya comes to spring, I plan on revealing myself to him, Naruto states. Why reveal yourself? Hinata says, and Naruto buttons up his coat. I just wanna see his face. Once I'm done, I'll lock up that information so tight. No Yamanaka will be able unlock, Naruto says, and both slowly nod. The trio slip back inside and collect their things, saying goodbye to Yumi and return to spring. Aim. Diva Pain stares at the Toby with a blank face, but his eyes flicker in rage. What do you mean all dead? He says. Toby stood with arms crossed inside his cloak. All the white Zetsu clones are dead. Which means Zetsu is dead, he says. Zetsu doesn't work on the front line, Conan says. That is true, and somehow Zetsu is dead. Then this ghost is more dangerous than we anticipated, Toby states. But how? Zetsu is very good at concealing himself. If Ghost and Sasori did indeed kill Zetsu, How were they able to sense him? He is able to hide in Pain-sama's reign, Konan states. That is the question. Perhaps we should reevaluate bringing Ghost into Akatsuki, Toby says, but Ki fills the room. No. This ghost has defied God. He is the devil and will be smited, Diva Pain says. That may be true, Pain, but we have lost 3 members now. Our spy network is in shambles, Toby states. No matter. Ghost is a threat we can no longer ignore, Diva Pain states. Do you really want to attack Spring? They are a small country like AIM, Konan protests, but Pain only stares. They are a haven for Ghost. As God they must be smited to continue of path to peace, Diva Pain says, and Konan's eyes widen. Toby, contact the others. I want them here in AIM within 2 weeks, Diva Pain orders. Toby narrows his eyes behind his mask, he has lost his mind. No matter, I can still work this out, he thought. Of course, Pain-sama, Toby says and sucks himself into his eye, leaving Konan and Diva Pain. Nagato, what are you doing? You want to declare on war a country. To be no different than the large countries that have used AIM as their battlefield. You would kill innocent people to bring peace, Konan states. They will be sacrificed for peace. Do you want to abandon Yahiko's dream of peace? Diva Pain says. Konan stares at Yahiko's body with flickering eyes. This is not Yahiko's dream. You want to murder people to stop one person. Who could help us? She says. He is the devil. He seeks to stop our peace, Diva Pain shouts. You have changed, Nagato. You have never been like this. Madara has changed you, and not for the better. Have you twisted Yahiko's dream of peace with Madara's rhetoric? Konan says, but Diva Pain smacks her across the face. Konan clutches her face in shock, but it slips into anger, but her world goes black and she crumples to the floor. Standing behind Konan were 5 people with identical rippled patterned eyes, orange hair of various lengths and styles with various piercing. No words were spoken as the stoutest of the group hefts Konan onto his shoulder. You have defied God. Now you are cast out of heaven. Fallen angel, Diva Pain says, summon several shinobi to spread Konan's fall from grace. Spring 1 week later. Koyuki sits on her throne and tries to hide her disgust as Jiraiya does his insane kabuki dance. Jiraiya-san, if you are quite finished. We can get down to business, she says. Jiraiya holds his pose but sighs in defeat. Alright, Koyuki-chan, he says, but flinches as Koyuki glares. Koyuki-sama, I have for both a business and pleasure proposal. As I would like you to come out of retirement to star in my Aika Aika Paradise movie, Jiraiya says, but Koyuki makes a face. You wish me, a ruler of a country, to star in an adult movie and besmirch my reputation? Jiraiya-san, Koyuki says. Yes, but you won't have to do the parts, or if you wish. You can do it with someone you trust, Jiraiya says, correcting his slight. Koyuki closes her eyes in disgust but keeps it behind a blank mask. So you do wish me to debase myself in a relations with either someone I trust or an actor. I may no longer be a pure, but I do have standards, she says. It won't be that bad, Jiraiya says. Not that bad. If I were to do this movie, thousands would see me not only but having relations with someone. Again, I am a ruler. Do you wish my people to see me as a common whore? Koyuki snaps and Jiraiya flinches. My answer is no. So what is the other reason you have come to my country? Koyuki says. Jiraiya frowns but clears his throat. Right. The Rokudaime Hokage Danzo Shimura has expressed a wish to meet with your hero. The Ghost of Spring. He would like him to come to Konoha, he says. Your Hokage wishes to meet with my ghost. For what reason? Koyuki says. Hokage-sama was impressed by his deeds. Saving your country for annihilation by the land of sky. Killing an S-class missing nin and saving the case cage. Hokage-sama wishes to meet him in person and perhaps through him reopen trade with Spring, Jiraiya explains. Jiraiya-san, you expect me to reopen trade with a country who celebrated the death of someone who saved my country, or have you forgotten about Naruto Uzumaki? Koyuki states, keeping her anger masked. Jiraiya hides his disdain at the mention of Naruto, a great loss, but one person shouldn't influence your decisions about these matters, he says, but here's the throne room doors open. Koyuki rises from her throne. It does influence my choice. Konoha is place that thrives on the sacrifices of others, she starts, but a smirk forms. Right, my ghost, she says. Jiraiya turns only to taste some sweet chin music, courtesy of Naruto, and lays out the super pervert. That felt good, Naruto says, pumping his fist. What will you do to him? Koyuki asks. Naruto hefts Jiraiya onto his shoulder. We'll talk a little bit and all will lock away his memories. He'll wake up in a bedroom with a cooked up story. You'll decline his offer, but I'll go to Konoha with Anko, he explains. Couldn't Konoha break it? Koyuki asks, but Naruto shakes his head. An hour later, Jiraiya awakes with a start but finds himself in a straitjacket and chained to a chair. What the hell happened? He thought, struggling to move. The room was Spartan with one other chair and a metal table. Was I captured? So Spring has some competent shinobi, he thought, but a small yip catches Jiraiya's ears. The toad Sanin look around and sees a small white fox with two tails, causing him to glare and try to actually kick the fox. Stay away from him, Haru. You don't know where he's been, a voice says. Naruto places a pitcher of ice water, a glass and a bowl on the table. Haru yips and hops on the chair to the table as Naruto pours some water into the bowl. Do you know who I am? Do you know what country I represent? Jiraiya says. Naruto pulls the chair R and takes a seat to scratch Haru's ears. I know who you are. Jiraiya the Gallant. The Wildman of Konoha. Legendary Sanin. Lovely titles, he says, and Jiraiya puffs his chest, but Naruto snorts. A title given in failure and a shameful animal, Naruto says, folding his arms. Jiraiya glares at the unknown Naruto. Who are you? He says, and Naruto chuckles. Well, you and me have a history. Don't my eyes look familiar? Naruto states, pointing to his slitted blue eyes. History. Did I sleep with your mom? Jiraiya says, and Naruto snorts. It's been about 2.5 years since we crossed paths, Naruto says, reaching for his half mask but stops. Does the name Naruto Uzumaki ring a bell? Naruto starts, pouring himself a glass of water, and Jiraiya's demeanor changes. He's dead. Died at the hands of the Akatsuki, but he was a demon in human skin, Jiraiya says, bitterly. Naruto runs his gloved finger along the rim of the full glass. The official story right, but the truth is Naruto was set to become the attack dog for Danzo Shimura, the Shadow Hokage and current Rokudaime Hokage as of late, he says. Jiraiya's eyes narrow as Naruto scratches Haru's ear again. How could he know that, he thought. Your silence speaks volumes, and you're wondering how I know that little fact. Well, the reason for that is simple, really. Because I was there, Naruto says, pulling down his mask, and Jiraiya's eyes widen. Kurama's words were auspicious that day, was it not? Naruto states, drinking some water with a smirk on his face. Jiraiya struggles in his chains with a glare. So Spring is where you have been hiding, he says. I haven't been exactly hiding. Well, I did have to hide my whiskers. A simple mask or henge takes care of that. My blonde hair was another matter. So I used chakra ink to dye it permanently black, but I guess you could say I was hiding. Not idle, of course, Naruto says. Konoha will come for me and they will finally have their weapon back, Jiraiya says, and Naruto laughs, but the door opens. Tsunade, did you hear? Konoha will come for their pervert, Naruto says, and Jiraiya gasps as Tsunade walks past him. Tsunade. How? Jiraiya says, but his eyes widen as Tsunade Naruto deeply, and he looks Jiraiya in the eye. I was saved from the corruption of Konoha by my Naruto, Tsunade says, picking up Haru, and the little fox snuggles her godly bosom. Show him, Naruto says, and Tsunade reveals her fox-like features. Jiraiya's eyes widen in horror, but Naruto reveals his ears. Kurama sacrificed his soul to make me his progeny. I bestowed this power to Tsunade and others, Naruto says. I knew you were a demon. Tsunade, how could you do this? Jiraiya shouts but cries out in pain, as Tsunade scratches him across the face with her claws. Naruto gave me back all the years Konoha took from me. Tsunade starts and bares her teeth. I also know what Konoha did to my grandmother's clan, or namely what you, Danzo and Orochimaru did, she growls. Jiraiya seizes with wide eyes but clips his eyes to Naruto. Look what have you done to her, he shouts. Oh please. Don't blame me for your actions, Naruto says and grasps Tsunade's shoulder. He's not worth it. Take Haru for some lunch, he says. Tsunade slowly calms down and picks up Haru again. I hope you die a slow death, Jiraiya, she hisses, leaving. Now that this little interruption is over. The reason Tsunade knows the truth is after Kurama saved me. He took me to Uzushio, Naruto says, and the color drains from Jiraiya's face. Another thing to know. My parents left imprints of themselves on the seal and they know everything about my life. When you die, they will have words, Naruto adds. You're lying. Jiraiya shouts. Naruto drinks some more water with a glint in his eyes. I am many thing but liar I am not. I spent a month in my mind with my parents and learned everything they knew until their chakra ran out. Then I proceeded to use thousands upon thousands of shadow clones to gain years if not decades of experience, he says and leans closer. I know the Hiraishin and I took it step further. I can still use the kunai, of course. I have about 100 sealed on my body, but I developed an advanced shunshin I call the flash step, Naruto adds, and Jiraiya's eyes widen. Not only do my enemies have to worry about the kunai, but I can move just as fast as well. You fufufufu, Naruto says. You truly are a demon, Jiraiya says, but Naruto wags his finger. No Jiraiya. You, Danzo, Orochimaru and Konoha are the real demons. First you betray the Uzumaki clan. Pervert the will of fire. Turn your sensei into your unwitting pawn to drive me towards Danzo. Then you sacrificed him for your own ambitions, Naruto says. Sensei was too soft-hearted to make the tough choices. Too emotional to turn you over to Danzo for your proper fate, Jiraiya shouts. My fate. The fate of all Jinchuriki right to be weapons of their villages, but those words are all Danzo's rhetoric, but your compensation for joining for that emotion-hating warhawk was Tsunade, right? Naruto says. So what? Tsunade deserves someone like me. A real man. A true man. Not some girly man like Dan Kato, Jiraiya shouts. Tsunade would never choose a perverted, whiny man-child like you, grandfather, Naruto sneers. Grandfather. Jiraiya says and Naruto crosses his legs. Yes, grandfather. Dad was your bastard son. One of many I can guess from your many romps around the nations. He wanted tell you but he saw the real you. A shameless man with no morals or talent for that matter. The weakest of the Sannin and dumbest as well, Naruto replies. Jiraiya lurches forward but the chains keep him rooted in place. I should have smothered you as a child. You killed my son and Kushina by your very existence, he says. Oh, now Dad is your son. How much of a leech are you? The moment I tell you that he was your son, you claim him. Well, guess what, Toad? It was a lie. My father would never have the genes of a walking infection like you, Jiraiya, Naruto spits, angering the older man. Oh, come off it, Jiraiya. You are an infection onto others. Your very existence is a cancer. If Gigi never met you, he may still be alive. If Tsunade never met you, she wouldn't have had to suffer as she did. Your lust for her allowed Orochimaru to take her brother and Danzo to set up Dan, Naruto says. How the hell do you know that? Jiraiya spits. Naruto rolls up his sleeve and produces a black book. This book holds many secrets. Danzo thought himself a genius but Gigi was smarter. Before the fall of Uzushio, the Uzukage sent a copy of this book to him. He knew everything Danzo did, including both your actions. However, Gigi was a bit soft when it came to those like you and Danzo. Even Orochimaru, but he was planning on giving this book to Mom and Dad, but Kurama's attack happened and his one opportunity vanished with their deaths. Dad would have had the power to purge the guilty from the council and start with a clean slate, he explains and grins. I can imagine Danzo's face if this were to come to light, he adds. Konoha will wipe you out, Naruto. Even if you possess the Hiraishin. You cannot stop a village that knows your all strengths and your weaknesses, Jiraiya says, but Naruto grabs Jiraiya by the throat. Konoha's days are numbered. Have you already forgotten? I trained for a year on Uzushio. That still leaves a year and a half unaccounted for, right? I have made quite a name for myself as the ghost of spring, Naruto says, and Jiraiya freezes. Yes. You know what I talking about. The S-rank threat that destroyed the land of Sky and just recently Deidara the mad bomber of Iwa and Sasori the red sand. Isn't that why you came all the way here? To meet with the ghost, but the ghost is the demon brat. Right. Naruto says. You're lying. Jiraiya sputters. Naruto tilts his head with a smirk on his face. I told you, Jiraiya. I don't lie. I am the ghost of spring. I wiped out the land of Sky and sunk it to bottom of the ocean, he says, and let his throat go. Just imagine it. I make my return to Konoha. I transform into a fox form and lay waste to it. Just as Kurama did those years ago. But this time, no Yondaime to seal it, Naruto sneers, as Jiraiya's eyes widen. Sasuke will stop you, Naruto, Jiraiya says, but Naruto laughs softly, but it evolves into full-blown laughter. You sound like Ino. Sasuke cannot beat me on my worst day. His ninjutsu. Weak. Taijutsu. Pathetic. Genjutsu. Useless. I know he wants to face me as ghost, but he'll fail and then he'll whine. I am a Uchiha. I can't lose. Blah. Blah. Naruto says and smirks. I bet. If I said, I can make him as strong as me, but he has to leave Konoha and join me. He'll do it with no hesitation, Naruto adds, but Jiraiya remains quiet. Your silence speaks. I bet Danzo knows it too, Naruto comments. So what happens now? Demon, Jiraiya hisses. Naruto makes a fist with a tilt of his head and blows on it, before shining it up and slamming a left straight to Jiraiya's face. That, Naruto muses, as Jiraiya loses conscious. The door opens and Sakura steps with a sachet of her hips. Finished, Naruto she asks. Yeah, it'd be waste to do any more. He'll get his soon or later. I'll let Tsunade get her pound of flesh, Naruto says. Sakura rounds Jiraiya and softly Naruto on the lips. No kidding, Shisho will tear limb from limb, she says. Naruto had to resist ramming a kunai into Jiraiya's throat, listening to the man ramble on and on and on about his books, women, and his prowess as a man. Anko snorted at that notion because she had experienced a true man. Naruto had done his job very well and Jiraiya had no clue Ghost and Naruto were one in the same. The pervert woke up the next morning with two women in his bed and both praised his prowess, after being paid quite well. Koyuki declined to make his movie but agreed to let Ghost meet with Konoha. You're gonna love Konoha. The hot springs. The women, Jiraiya crows. Anko glares at the man under a henge, adopting the look of long, braided neon green hair to her rear and sick yellow eyes like her former sensei. The group soon reach the imposing walls of Konoha, meeting the infamous gate guardians or lovers Izumo and Kotetsu. You're pretty famous, Izumo says. Naruto signs his name with a wiggle of his lollipop in his mouth, yeah. I hadn't noticed. I do my job. As a ghost. I am not meant to be noticed and make people wonder if I even exist, he says. Jiraiya quickly starts writing in a notepad with blood running down his nose but freezes as Naruto glares. I find my likeness in a book. I'll cut your nuts off and boil 'em. Then proceed to feed 'em to Ya, he says, coldly, and causing all three to grab their crotches. Alright, let's head to see the Hokage. Your lady can find a hotel, Jiraiya says. Naruto glances back to Anko. See soon. Lover, Anko coos, sauntering off in her revealing outfit. You doing her? Jiraiya asks but shuts up as Naruto glares. The village hasn't changed since he was here last, but he could sense numerous hidden shinobi, more than likely his Nae, Naruto thought. Jiraiya rambles on about how nice Konoha was, how it was the strongest village and the like. Such propaganda, Naruto thought. The pair reach Anbu headquarters. Why are we not going to the Hokage Tower? Naruto asks. Well, it was destroyed not long ago. The former Hokage and several others were killed. So we moved thing to here for now as a new place is being built, Jiraiya explains. The Anbu inside gave Naruto suspicious glances, but the new Kyuubi ignores them. Hokage-sama is inside, an Anbu named Bull states, at the door. Jiraiya opens the door and Naruto immediately notices Danzo and Orochimaru standing next to him. Welcome to Konoha. I am the Rokudaime Hokage, Danzo starts, not offering a handshake. Naruto slowly nods and takes a seat as Jiraiya closes the door and leans next to it. I am Menma. Known as the Ghost, Naruto says. Kukuku. You look so young and already an S-class shinobi, Orochimaru states. Naruto slowly nods, but he could feel Danzo trying to needle his brain. Yes, but I am not one to brag. I let my actions speak for me, Naruto says. Indeed. You destroyed the land of sky. Saving Spring Country in the process. Killed Iwa missing Nin Deidara and saved the current Cage. Notable feats, Orochimaru comments and Naruto slowly nods again. Yes. Hokage-sama. Jiraiya-san was not forthcoming on why you wish to meet with me. May you elaborate? Naruto asks. Danzo's hidden eye narrows but he remains blank-faced. Yes. I'll get straight to the point. I wish to offer you a place in Konoha. You would be granted the status of Tokubetsu Jonin, and if you prove yourself, you will granted full Jonin status after a few years. You will also provide a child to a woman of our choosing within 2 years, and once the child is born, you may receive clan status, he explains. Naruto stares at the older man and blinks with a rub of his eyes, giving all three a false impression of victory. Hokage-sama. You wish me to forego my loyalty to Koyuki-sama and join Konoha. Given special Jonin status with a promotion to full Jonin in several years, but I am also obligated to impregnate a woman of your choice. Because you believe the rumors of my speed, I can guess impossible clan head status once said child is born, Naruto relays. Come on kid. That's a good deal for an outsider. You're a big fish in a small pond in spring. Konoha is where the big fish play, Jiraiya chimes in. Naruto glances back to his former supposed sensei, so loyalty means nothing unless it is to Konoha and by extension Fire Country, he says, unblinking. Jiraiya glances away as Naruto's blue eyes seem to look through him. Though crude, Jiraiya is correct. Your talent is wasted in spring. Rumors call you the second coming of our Yondaime or the current Yondaime Raikage. Konoha can give you a place to thrive and shine, Danzo explains, trying more with his hidden eye. Hokage-sama. Naruto starts and rubs his eyes once again. To me, a shinobi is one who fights from the shadows. Not for status or glory but to aid their country. A shinobi should not serve two masters. I am loyal to Koyuki-sama. Her shinobi are loyal to her. Not a cage or a council, Naruto explains, and Danzo's visible eye narrows. Kukuku, this ghost is interesting. I wonder how he would stand up to Sasuke-kun, Orochimaru thought. Your loyalty to Koyuki-san is impressive. Tell me what gave you the idea that you would serve two masters, Orochimaru asks. Well, I met someone in my travels to Earth Country. Unfortunately, he didn't have a high opinion of Konoha, Naruto says, dangling the bait. Who was he? Jiraiya interjects. Naruto grasps his chin in thought. Well, he was wearing a Iowa uniform, but he was young, around 15 or 16. Blonde spiky hair and red eyes, but he also had these scars on his cheeks, he explains, shocking Jiraiya. Are you sure? Jiraiya shouts. Naruto locks eyes with Danzo and nods. Yes. He didn't give his name, but when we crossed paths, he gave off this aura that was inhuman or dangerous, he states. Hokage-sama, this could be it, Jiraiya says, but Danzo raises his hand, stopping him from revealing their hand. Not even a Konoha shinobi, and you given us some valuable information. Also, there is another matter to discuss. Danzo starts and clears his throat, one of our Jonin. Sasuke Uchiha has wished to face you in battle or a full contact spar, he adds. Sasuke Uchiha. Any relation to Itachi Uchiha? The Kin Slayer? Naruto asks and Danzo nods. Yes. His younger brother, Danzo replies. Naruto scratches his cheek in thought. Forgive me Hokage-sama, but I have not heard of this Sasuke. Is he in the bingo book? He asks. Sasuke-kun was personally taught by me. He does have old entry from 3 years ago but was not updated. I can assure you, Sasuke-kun is quite strong, Orochimaru quips. I see. I would agree to face him in a full contact spar, but should I hurt him? I run the risk of 2 Sannin or your shinobi wanting my head. Judging by the praise of your voice Orochimaru-san, Naruto says, letting more bait dangle. We'll allow both of you to sign the waiver to absolve both Konoha and Spring. Should you unlikely injure Sasuke or Sasuke kills you, Danzo says, and Naruto didn't falter at the jab. An interesting offer Hokage-sama. May I add this? I will face Sasuke in a full contact spar, but I will limit myself to taijutsu. Substitution and shunshin, Naruto says, shocking both Orochimaru and Jiraiya. Are you mental, kid? Basics against an Uchiha. You are either cocky or stupid, Jiraiya states, but Naruto ignores him. Will that be satisfactory Hokage-sama? Naruto asks. Danzo remains quiet, but internally he was angry. Why is my Sharingan not working on him? No matter. Sasuke will break him and we find the information in his head about the Jinchuriki, he thought. That is sufficient. Tomorrow at noon we'll have the spar. Jiraiya will lead you to training ground 7. The spar will witnessed by several of our Jonin, Danzo says. May I bring my fellow Kuroya Yuhi member? Naruto asks, and Danzo's glances to Jiraiya. Of course, but what is Kuroya Yuhi? Danzo questions. It's a group I formed with several kunoichi. 2 of my members helped the Kazekage and his brother, Naruto explains, causing Danzo to freeze. Interesting. Your group must be fairly new to escape the eye of our spy master, Danzo states. Naruto rises from his seat with a bow. It would seem so. Thank you for your offer Hokage-sama. I will contemplate it tonight and give you my choice after my spar with Sasuke, he says. Jiraiya opens the door and follows Naruto out with a scowl on his face. Hook, line and sinker, Naruto thought. Kukuku, were you able to take control? Orochimaru says, but Danzo scowls. Seems not, he adds. This ghost is more dangerous. My Koto Amatsukami would start to work but quickly halt. His mind is a steel trap, Danzo states. Then Sasuke-kun's Sharingan will be useless as well. Tomorrow will be interesting, Orochimaru says. Indeed. However, the possibility that he encountered the Jinchuriki, Danzo says, lighting a cigarette. It seems Onoki is quite scrupulous to have Naruto-kun as his shinobi. This gives Iwa 3 Jinchuriki, Orochimaru states. No matter the outcome, Ghost and his compatriot will be dealt with, Danzo says. You think the boy will decline? Orochimaru asks, and Danzo nods. Yes. He is loyal to the actress, Danzo replies, and Orochimaru titters, with thoughts of acquiring Naruto's body. XXX. Naruto strolls through the streets after Jiraiya took off to find about him. Jiraiya will run like a chicken with its head cut off to confirm Kuroya Yuhi's existence and the possibility of me being in Iwa, but Onoki will deny it, of course, he thought. Naruto could sense several nei on his tail, but a smile forms, seeing Ichiraku ramen. Naruto enters the shop and sees it dead. Hello, he says. 1 second, a voice shouts and Naruto takes a seat on a stool. Ayame comes out from the back and saw him, but he quickly claps his hands, causing a special genjutsu to form. Hey Ayame Nichan, Naruto says. Ayame comes around the counter and slams into Naruto. Naruto-kun, she whispers. I'm sorry I didn't get you out sooner, but did Lucas gave you and your dad the scroll? Naruto asks and Ayame mumbles. I did, Lucas says, coming down from the ceiling and now the size of a small puppy. Ayame pulls back and wipes her tears with a nod. Yes, he did. Can you really get us out? Without raising suspicions, she asks. I can. I will cast a genjutsu on some villagers and they will attack the shop and cause an explosion. A clone will get you out into spring, Naruto explains. Who is it? Ayame, Tuki says. 1XL Naruto says and Tuki laughs. You got it, kiddo, Tuki says and Ayame follows him. Naruto pets Lucas on the head. Any other troubles? He asks. Nope. Mama got into the estates and got everything of note, Lucas explains, before leaving with a puff of smoke. Ayame comes with a large bowl of ramen and Naruto's mouth waters as he claps his hands, dispelling his genjutsu. Thanks for the food, Naruto says and devours his meal and several more behind it. Anko steps inside and her eyes widen, seeing 10 bowls of ramen next to Naruto and he was still going. Where does he put it? Anko thought, taking seat next to him. Give me a sec, Naruto says, in a garbled tone with his cheeks bugling and sucks up the remaining noodles. Sorry, Naruto says and puts some money on the table. Thanks for the food, he shouts. Come back anytime, Ayame shouts. The pair take off towards their hotel but stop for several pounds of dango. Where is she gonna fit it all? He thought, holding several bags. Don't make that face. I like dango like you like ramen, Anko chides. They reach the hotel near the red light district. Clever, Naruto thought, entering the room. It was furnished with a large bed and decent bathroom. They have taken the bait, he muses, plopping on the sofa. So what now? Anko asks. Tonight we get the Ichirakus out. Tomorrow I shame Sasuke. I also told Danzo. I saw me in Earth Country in an Iowa uniform. Jiraiya nearly freaked out. Danzo is paranoid enough to send the perv. Giving me an opportunity to play one of my aces, Naruto asks. You have an ace up your sleeve, Anko says, slipping off her gloves. Naruto gives the snake mistress his signature smile. I have someone in Iowa. This person is close to the old fence sitter. Once Danzo sends Jiraiya to Earth Country, I'll contact my ace and if we are lucky, he gets captured and causes hostility between Iowa and Konoha, he explains. That's kinda evil. I think it's sexy, Anko says. I am trying to break the system and war come about. So be it, Naruto comments and Anko titters. So when do we kill the snake? Anko asks. Soon. He was very interested me. More than Sasuke-chan. Once I embarrass Sasuke tomorrow, he will be after me like Ino does Sasuke, Naruto states. So you're fighting Sasuke already? Anko asks. Just a full contact spar. Danzo wants us or rather me to sign waivers to absolve Konoha if he kills me. I told him I'll hold back to basics, Naruto explains. PFF'd more absolve us after you curbstomp him, Anko says and Naruto smirks. Yeah, I'll beat him so bad. His kids will be born bruised. Then I'll take the 6-path yin power from him too, Naruto states and Anko laughs, down the last of her dango. Alright, time to work off some calories, Anko says, pouncing on the blonde and having hours of fun. Break. Mid-morning came too soon for the pair as Naruto woke up first and managed to sneak out of bed. He quickly took a shower and headed for Ichiraku to see the damage. His clones has gotten both Ayame and Tuki out of Konoha to his storehouse in the capital. Naruto reaches the scorched ruins of Ichiraku and people were out and gawking. Many seemed to be glad that the place burned and some hoped both Ayame and Tuki were dead. This angered Naruto and continued to certify his cause to wipe Konoha from the map. Naruto continues on to Akamichi barbecue for breakfast and got treated to sight of Choji stuffing his face. Oi, why do you smell of foxes? A voice shouts. Naruto turns and comes face to face with Kiba. Excuse me, he says. You smell of foxes. Foxes are demons and are banned in Konoha to be killed on sight, Kiba states. He was wearing a leather form-fitting black jacket, with zips over the chest and sleeves, along with black pants and sandals, also zipped, matching the jacket. Naruto sniffs his jacket and furrows his brow. I have a pet fox back home. She is very affectionate, he says, finding a booth to sit down. Kiba follows him but now joined by Choji. Why have a fox? They are demons, the plump boy notes. He wears a red suit with plated armor on his torso, arms, and upper legs, having the kanji for food on the front. Can I help you with something others than my love of foxes? Naruto states. Ha. The name's Kiba Inuzuka, head of the Inuzuka clan, Kiba states. Choji Akamichi. My family owns this place, Choji says. Naruto picks up a menu and looks it over. I am Menma, he says and furrows his brow. You look kinda young to be a clan head, he asks. Well, my bitch of a mom and sister were killed. So the elders made me the head, Kiba boasts. Naruto hides his scowl as the waitress comes. Well, congrats Kiba-san. Now can you excuse me? I would like to eat alone please, he says. So why are you here in Konoha? Kiba says. Naruto sighs and makes his order. Hokage-sama asked to come to Konoha and meet with him. I did, but he wishes me to spar with a Sasuke Uchiha, he says. Sasuke. That prick, Kiba comments. Naruto tries to ignore Kiba and Choji as both had sat at his booth. As Kami-sama messing with me, he thought. So you must be famous or something for Hokage-sama to invite you here, Choji says, stealing a few pieces of meat. Yes. I am the ghost of spring, Naruto says, frying some egg and meat. Kiba and Choji jerk back with wide eyes. For real. The ghost of spring with AS rank and flee of sight, Kiba shouts. Naruto looks up with a blank look on his face. Yes, and please don't shout, he says, continuing to eat. How troublesome. I heard you from outside, a voice drawls. Naruto glances up and sees Shikamaru in a standard Konoha uniform and Chunin vest. Shikamaru, get this. This guy is the ghost of spring, Choji states. I know Choji. Hokage-sama sent me to find him. Sasuke wants to push up the spar, Shikamaru says. Naruto sighs and moves out of the booth and tosses some money on the table. Choji-san, you may have the rest. Lead the way Shikamaru-san, he says. Shikamaru mutters troublesome and leads Naruto to training ground 7, leaving Choji and Kiba. What happened to Jiraiya-san? He was to escort me, Naruto asks, making a Sealess clone in an alley to retrieve Anko and take her to the warehouse. He left on an important mission, Shikamaru comments, slipping a cigarette in his mouth and fishing his Zippo, but Naruto hold his own up. Troublesome, Shikamaru thought, lighting up. The pair soon arrive at the training ground and Naruto saw Danzo, Orochimaru, Kakashi, Asuma, the elders and a few other Jonin. Sasuke was standing near the infamous 3 wooden poles with Ino standing near him like a loyal dog with his team not far away. Danzo approaches with Kaharu and the waiver. Here you are. Sign this and we can begin. Sasuke-sama's time is valuable, she says. Naruto looks through and doesn't see any genjutsu to hide stipulation. Their overconfidence will their undoing, he thought, signing. He touches his coat and seals it within his glove, leaving him with form-fitting singlet. Sasuke didn't bother to read and signed with a confident smirk on his face as Ino shouts his name. Naruto and Sasuke step forward as the former stretches his arms. Time I show you what a real elite looks like, Sasuke says. Naruto stays quiet as he cracks his fingers with a calm look on his face. This will be full contact spar between Sasuke Uchiha and Menma the Ghost of Spring. Both have signed waivers should Sasuke kill Menma. Danzo states and raises his hand. Hajime, he shouts. Sasuke quickly activates his Sharingan and quickly locks eyes with Naruto, as the latter stands still. Got him, Sasuke thought and flashes several signs, clutching his left arm. A familiar sound of chirping birds erupts as Sasuke's arm glows with Raiden, before he sprints forward to end the spar with a death. Danzo frowns slightly at the arrogance of Sasuke. He's S-class for a reason, foolish boy, he thought. Get him, Sasuke-kun, Ino roars. Sasuke quickly closes the gap with Naruto, but a loud snap, followed by a scream of pain. The Konoha ninja present gasp in shock as Sasuke staggers back with left arm snapped back at the elbow. Naruto quickly shunshions behind Sasuke to kick out his legs into a follow-up downward punch, breaking his nose, a few teeth in his jaw. Naruto blows some air out his nose and turns to the stunned silent Konoha ninja, but quickly erupts in furious shouts of rage. I won. He lost. I held back quite a bit, Naruto says. How could you hurt Sasuke-kun? Ino screeches and connects with a slap to Naruto's cheek, but he doesn't even budge. Naruto clips his eyes to Danzo. I am sorry, Hokage-sama, but it seems I must decline your offer. It is blatantly obvious I would not be welcomed. He starts and grabs Ino's wrist. If this is the result of a full contact spar and judging by your ninja, many are already plotting my death. So unless you wish to see why I called a S-class shinobi an army killer, tell them to stand down, Naruto adds, crushing her wrist with ease. Ino screams in pain and falls to her knees as Naruto turns fully to Danzo. Your choice, Hokage-sama, Naruto states. Leave, but know this, boy. You will be in our bingo book with a kill on sight order, Danzo states. Naruto raises his arms with a shrug. Doesn't bother me one bit. You were not the first and certainly not the last, he says and vanishes with a single step. Danzo grips his cane with a look of anger behind his calm visage. Hokage-sama, we cannot let him leave. He nearly killed Sasuke, Kakashi states. No, inform the Hunter Corp and spread the word to all Konoha ninja. Kill the ghost of spring on sight, Danzo orders. Get Sasuke to the hospital, Danzo adds, and several Jonin pick him up. Break. Naruto appears in his warehouse as Anko was waiting for him. What happened with Sasuke? Anko asks. I broke his arm, nose and some teeth. Jaw. Danzo and Konoha want me dead, but nothing new, Naruto replies. Kukuku. That little bastard deserves that and more, Anko says. Naruto unseals his coat and slips it on. Alright, head back to spring. I'm heading back to get Sasuke's six-path yin. Then head to Earth Country to intercept Jiraiya with my ace, he says, making a shadow clone. The clone grasps Anko's shoulder and vanishes in a white flash as Naruto heads up to the small office for a nap and wait. Konoha General. The sun quietly sets on Sasuke's room, his face heavily bandaged and his left arm in a cast. A lone tarantula starts to descend from her shadows and lands on Sasuke's chest, but a puff of smoke billows and a small girl with snow-white hair and green eyes was straddling him. Teehee. Boss wants your power. We should make it easy, she says and opens her mouth. Slowly a barb comes out and pricks Sasuke on the neck. Sasuke's monitor beeps a bit but steadies as the girl hops off and she pulls a familiar kunai from her satchel. A white flash fills the room as Naruto appears, quickly flashing several signs. He creates a barrier as the girl giggles. Thanks, Arki, Naruto says. We got everything out, Arki comments. Naruto slowly removes his gloves and places them in pockets. Thanks, Lucas told me, he says, placing his sun-marked hand on Sasuke's chest. I better make this quick before his dog comes back. Arki cover his mouth, Naruto says. Arki covers Sasuke's mouth as Naruto call up his yang six-path power, trying to resonate with its yin half, and slowly it works as he places his other hand on top. Sasuke's body trembles a bit as a yellow glow emerges from Sasuke's chest and crawls up Naruto's left arm. Naruto winces as his left eye erupts with pain as the last of the yin power leaves Sasuke. Looking down, he sees a moon symbol on his left hand. Boss, your eye changed, Arki says, letting Sasuke go. Naruto slips his gloves back on and finds a mirror, but his eyes widen, seeing a Rinnegan eye staring back but with 6 tomos. It seems this your gift from Indra's power. Thank you Sasuke, Naruto says and turns Arki, please keep an eye on things. I'll be on my way, he says. Arki returns to her spider form and makes her way into the shadows. Well Sasuke, it's been fun. Well for me anyway, Naruto muses, dispelling his barrier and vanishing as Ino opens the door, preparing to molest Sasuke's body. Break. Jiraiya and a small contingent of Anbu were making their way through Earth Country in search of Naruto. After learning of Naruto's whereabouts from Ghost, the Toad Sage quickly took a group of Anbu to find him, despite the protests of Danzo. It has been about 1 week since the group left, but for Jiraiya it was a chance to make up for his failure. Naruto could have come to Konoha and kill Tsunade. Did you tell Onoki our secrets? You damn demon, Jiraiya thought. The group quickly made their way through a rocky plain, but suddenly earth and spikes erupt around them. Form up, Jiraiya shouts, but the ground turns into quicklime and encases their forms. Seems our informant was right, a voice sneers, as a block of rock rises from the ground. Atop the pillar of rock was a young woman with short black hair and pink eyes, dressed in a standard IWA uniform. It consists of a red uniform with her right sleeve missing and a lapel over her right leg, the brown Iwagakure flak jacket, fishnet tights and a skirt over them. She also wears regular shinobi sandals and a pair of gloves. Jiraiya of the Sannin. My informant told me. You were encroaching on our country and with a squad of Anbu, she declares, as several Iwa Anbu surround them. Jiraiya was seething internally but maintained a straight face. Kurotsuchi, granddaughter of Onoki, he starts, but his eyes widen as another stood next to Kurotsuchi. Naruto. You demon, Jiraiya shouts. The blonde-hair former Konoha pariah stood with his arms folded. Hey Arrow Sennin, he sneers, but a glare forms. How did you know I was here? Naruto asks. The Anbu struggle to free themselves, but Jiraiya shakes his head. A shinobi named Ghost told us, he shouts. Ghost. That Tem. Onoki Jiji calls him the ghost of the flash like the Yondaime. Naruto states and drops down. So you heard my name and came running with no plan and a such paltry backup, he adds. You killed the Hokage, Sparrow shouts. Naruto tilts his head with a furrowed brow. Ba-chan dead. He says. You did it. Didn't you Naruto? You killed Tsunade. For what? To get back at me, huh? Jiraiya shouts. That a real shame and all, but you leaf huggers are trespassing, Kurotsuchi says and drops down as well. You will not take us lightly, Jiraiya hisses, preparing himself to free himself. Oh, but they won't have to, a voice states. Jiraiya whips around and his breath hitches as Ghost was right behind them. You. He utters. The Naruto in front of him pops in a puff of smoke, as do all the Iwa Anbu. Don't you just love shadow clones? Ghost, or rather the real Naruto, says, a pair of dark sunglasses over his eyes. Hey boy, Kurotsuchi says. Hey girl. Naruto muses but glances to a Jiraiya. Hey Arrow Sennin, he says. Jiraiya's eyes widen and his body shudders as memories return, veins flare in his face and his teeth. Oh ho ho ho. The memories have returned. The trigger being Arrow Sennin spoken twice, Naruto states. You damn demon. You should have been killed as child, Jiraiya shouts. Naruto chuckles as he approaches the Toad Sennin. I thought I was needed as an attack dog on the lease. Well, that Konoha for ya. I stopped Gaara. Brought Tsunade back to become Godime, but what Konoha do with that loyalty? Betrays it. Konoha always takes and takes and takes from good people, he says. You are not a person, Naruto. You are weapon. A tool to used and tossed aside. Once your purpose is done with, Jiraiya spits. So I am not even a person to you. My father must be rolling in the Shinigami's stomach knowing he trusted you. A whiny man-child incapable of doing anything. A pervert who begs women to sleep with him or blackmails them. A petulant child who sold out a country for some. How was Danzo gonna give Tsunade to you? Use his hidden Sharingan to make her your trained whore. Orochimaru experiment on her to make a barely functioning doll. Huh. Naruto shouts, ripping the glasses from his face and revealing his new Rinnegan. Jiraiya's eyes widen in horror. The Rinnegan. Impossible. How do you have same eyes? He says. Same eyes. You mean Nagato, or Pain as he calls himself. Actually, you can thank Sasuke for this Rinnegan. After I clapped him in Konoha, I took this power from him. He never knew he had it, but oh well, Naruto explains. So this was an elaborate plot. Jiraiya shouts. Naruto slips his glasses on his forehead, a little bit. You've been looking for me almost 3 years and you had no luck. So I dangled some bait and you snapped it up like a hungry dog. Quite pathetic. He sneers. However, the best part of the plot has yet to begin. Just picture it. Jiraiya the legendary Sannin assassinates Onoki the Sandaime Tsuchikage, Naruto declares. Many in Iowa still hate Konoha for the last war. So when Gramps dies, war will ring through all of Iowa, Kurotsuchi says. Danzo will more than likely disavow you, but the die will be cast. Kumo may see it as an opportunity. Suna is your only ally, but I talked Gaara into dropping that, Naruto adds. You finally show your true nature. Demon, Boar spits. Naruto claps his hands slowly as he approaches Boar, derogatory names. Konoha's default term for me, he says and places his hand on Boar's head. Boar seizes as Naruto pulls back and glowing blue visage of human leaves Boar. Ah, now I know the layout of Anbu HQ and patrol routes, Naruto says. What did you do? Jiraiya shouts. Naruto taps near his left eye, one of the abilities of the Rinnegan. Ninjendo Path. It allows me to read the thoughts of others and rip out their souls as well, he explains. Naruto raises his left hand. I have about 1,000 clones testing since I acquired the Rinnegan. I am learning a quite few things, he says, before Sparrow is ripped from the limestone. He grasps Sparrow by the neck, but Jiraiya gasps in shock as a black rod erupts out the back of her neck. A clone appears next to Naruto as he rolls his neck. Well, I would play some more, but something pressing has come up, Naruto muses, dropping Sparrow's corpse. Kurotsuchi take Jiraiya to the warehouse and start setting things up. This clone will help you get rid of the Anbu, Naruto says, tipping his glasses down. You won't get away with this, Naruto, Jiraiya shouts. Naruto turns to him with a slight lean back, because Konoha knows all my weaknesses, right? Oh no, Jiraiya, it is quite the opposite. I know Konoha's weaknesses, he says and vanishes in a white flash, leaving a seething Jiraiya and a smirking Kurotsuchi. Aim. Music. Naruto Shippuden Ost 2 Hyuhaku plus Kokuden. Itachi coughs violently on one knee with an unconscious Konan next to him, his Akatsuki cloak gone and his clothes torn. Opposite Itachi were the paths of Pain, Hidan, Kakuzu and Kisame. You would choose to defy God, Diva Pain says, looking down on them. I've pegged you as a traitor, Itachi-san, Kisame chuckles, resting Samahata on his shoulder. He. I can sacrifice him to Jashin now, Hidan says, with manic grin. Itachi's eyes flicker, but his body shimmers suddenly, causing all of them to narrow their eyes. Instead of Itachi, it was young woman in his place, Hidan shouts. It seems your chakra receiver has finally disrupted my henge, Itachi says, coughing blood into her hand. No matter. God will pass judgment, Diva Pain says, raising his hand. Itachi reaches in her pouch and grabs a familiar kunai and tosses it into the ground. I think your aim is off, Itachi-san. Oh, Itachi-chan, Kisame says, laughing. However, suddenly a white flash erupts in front of Itachi and a bit of relief fills her as Naruto stood in front her. Cutting a bit close, Itachi, Naruto states, not taking his eyes off of Diva Pain and the other Akatsuki. Sorry, Naruto-kun. Things changed. Pain betrayed Konan before I could arrive. I tried to get her out, but I was found out, Itachi explains. Who the are you? Hidan shouts. Naruto pulls down his hood with a roll of his neck. So this the famed god of aim and the dreaded Akatsuki, but all I see is a weak man and a bunch of weaklings, he says, ignoring Hidan. So you have finally shown yourself Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Diva Pain declares. Correction. Ex-Kyuubi Jinchuriki but Nadaime Kyuubi no Yoko, Naruto says and spreads his arms apart, revealing his tails and ears but one tail in now a sandy brown. You've gotten bigger Gaki. Samahata is so ready to eat your chakra, Kisame shouts. A clone comes to life behind Naruto as his ears and tails vanish, he'll take you to the warehouse. We're gonna need the eye, he says. They played into your hands, Itachi asks and Naruto nods, reaching for his sunglasses. The clone grasps Itachi's shoulder and she grabs Konan as they vanish in a white flash. Now then Akatsuki, shall we dance? Naruto declares. 5 of the paths leap forward with Hidan in tow but Naruto tosses his glasses, before blinking in front of Hidan. You will be the first, Naruto says, slamming Hidan into a wall and ripping out his soul. Kisame and Kakuzu were momentarily in shock as Naruto tosses the now lifeless Hidan aside. Look at his left eye. It's exactly like Pain's but different, Kakuzu states. Diva Pain frowns but Asura Pain wrenches off its arm and fires several missiles. Shinra Tensei, Naruto thought, deflecting the missiles. He launches forward grabbing Hidan's scythe and slices Asura Pain in half at the waist. Sweden. Sukoden no Jutsu, Kisame shouts, joining the fray. Naruto tosses the scythe aside and absorbs Kisame's shark jutsu, turnabout is fair play. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu, he shouts, sending a water dragon back at Kisame. Preta Pain gets in Kisame's path and starts to absorb the jutsu, while Ninjendo Pain charges Naruto from behind as Chikushodo Pain summons several centipedes. Naruto quickly somersaults over Ninjendo Pain, into a springboard kick to propel him up. Odama Rasengan, Naruto thought, forming the large orb and crashing it down into the centipedes. He quickly swipes his left arm out to send a chain and grab Jigokudo Pain, yanking it toward him as his right starts crackling with lightning. Chidori, Naruto thought, obliterating Jigokudo Pain's head. Naruto jerks as Diva Pain sends a concussive blast of Shinra Tensei but corrects and lands with a skid on the water. Kakuzu lands in front of Naruto with his threads bursting from his body and charging a blast. Naruto slams his palms and summons a giant panda to block the blast, creating another Rasengan but this one grows and screeches with wind. Futon. Rasenshuriken, Naruto thought, tossing the whipping Rasengan. Kakuzu tries to dodge but it enlarges and engulfs his body, ripping all of his hearts with micro windblades. The herd is thinning, Naruto says, staring at Diva Pain, Preta Pain, Chikushodo Pain, Ninjendo Pain and Kisame. How do you possess God's eyes? Diva Pain declares. Sorry but this devil won't speak, Naruto says, blinking in front of Ninjendo Pain and drives another Chidori through his chest. His left hand mechanizes and to charge a Charka blast through Chikushodo Pain. Bansho 10. In, Diva Pain shouts, using both as sacrifices. Naruto yanks forward into Diva Pain's path as a chakra rod erupts from the lead Pain's left arm. However Naruto grins and his Rinnegan glows and instead of driving his chakra rod through Naruto. It was Kisame to take blow instead and the shark man spews blood. Naruto opens his mouth wide as a Bijudama forms. Consider this your fall, he thought, obliterating both Diva Pain and Kisame, along with part of Pain's tower and part of AIM. Naruto sighs with a look around as his senses were stretching across AIM. There you are, he thought, blinking away. Song ends. Break. Inside a chamber was an odd contraption and inside it was withered man with red hair and Rinnegan eyes. How could I have fallen? He thought. Because even supposed God are not above reproach, Naruto says, standing behind him. Pain glances back with a glare. How did you find me? He asks. Since becoming the new Kyuubi. My sensing skills have improved. So tell me Pain or Nagato. Why do you want the Biju? Naruto say, rounding the contraption. Peace. I would bring peace to this world. Kahai. Pain states and Naruto's eyes narrow, Kahai, he says. Once I known by the name Nagato but I have forsaken it. Jiraiya was my sensei like you, pain or rather Nagato says. Shadows cover Naruto's eyes but a small laugh escapes, that pervert was never my sensei nor was he to you senpai. You were a means to an end. Jiraiya is working for Danzo. Danzo set you up with Hanzo. They thought if you died, they could take the Rinnegan for themselves, he states. Nagato was about to retort but Naruto's crackling left arm was sticking out his back. Sorry. The old me would try to talk this out. Convince you to help me but I can tell by your emotions. You're too far gone, he says, as Nagato slumps forward. Naruto pulls his arm free with a solemn look on his face, slipping off his coat and reaching towards Nagato's eyes. Step away from the Rinnegan eyes. Kyuubi incarnate, a cold voice states. Finally revealed yourself. I could sense you on the outskirts of the battle, Naruto says, bursting the eyes with his Biju Charka. You have no idea what you have done, boy, Tobi states. Naruto drapes his coat over Nagato and turns to Tobi. So who are you? Naruto asks. Madara Uchiha, Tobi says but Naruto snorts. I'm gonna call bullshit on that. I have some Kurama's memories and he remembered Madara's oppressive Charka and yours is more pathetic. So again who are you? Naruto says. I should have killed you as a child, Tobi hisses. But then you didn't. My father caught me and saved me. I owe you a lot of pain and suffering. Because of you I had to endure hell in Konoha. Beatings, starvation and a whole host of other things but I should also thank you. Your actions allowed me see Konoha for what it is and break free of the shackles it represents. I told Nagato I would break the wheel of the shinobi system by taking away the Biju. You are another spoke on that wheel, he says. Tobi was about to lung forward but a chakra rod goes through his thigh. How? He thought. I had my clone set up a barrier negating your abilities. My father fought you remember and deciphered your skills, Naruto states. Tobi collapses to one knee as the rod scrambles his chakra. This will not stop me, he says. Yes it will. You Uchiha are all the same. Thinking you're superior to everyone. Well except Itachi and her mother, Naruto says and grabs Tobi by the face, cracking the mask. Consider this repayment for killing my parents, Naruto says, ripping out Tobi's soul and letting him fall. Obito Uchiha, teammate of Kakashi, Naruto says and looks down at him. I may still have a use for you, he muses, creating several clones. Find Hidan's body and search for any notes Nagato could have, Naruto says, hoisting Obito on his shoulder. Mom. Dad. Kurama. I have avenged you. Now to start taking the next steps, Naruto thought. 2 clones appear with the body of Hidan and shockingly the sword Samahata. It survived my Bijudama, Naruto asks. It must have unlatched before Kisame was vaporized, one clone says. Okay, seal it into a scroll. We can use it to negotiate with Kiri, Naruto says, placing Obito down and retrieving 2 stasis scrolls. What about him? The second clone says, pointing to Nagato. Take him out of that and burn his body and scatter the ashes. No need for Orochimaru to bring him back, Naruto states and the clones nod. Naruto halts as several clones dispel but frowns, nothing of note but at the same time a good thing, he thought. I'm returning to the Earth warehouse. Catalog anything of note and send it through the little ones. Also get rid of any evidence, Naruto says and promptly vanishes. Earth country. Naruto reappears in another warehouse but is promptly hit by a large paperweight, its thrower being Tsunade. That's for keep secrets. Naruto, Tsunade says. Hinata was also there and squats down next to him as he sits up, plausible deniability. If you were captured, you would know nothing, especially with the company I keep, he says. No kidding Naruto, Kurotsuchi comments. How many more secrets Naruto-kun? Hinata asks. Naruto kips up to his feet and heads towards a stack of crates, just 2 more. Seeing as you have met Kurotsuchi and Itachi, he says. Does Sasuke even know Itachi is female or Konoha for that matter? Tsunade asks, her arms folded and pinching her nose. No, but she is double agent for Jiraiya, or rather triple agent for me. Itachi always kept me safe when I was little. When I went to the capital for business we crossed paths. Luckily Fish Boy wasn't there. I was weary, but she used Tsukuyomi to explain things and I told her things. She agreed to aid me as she couldn't keep both Akatsuki and Konoha off of me, Naruto explains. We met, fought and, Kurotsuchi says, with a smirk, and both his mates glare at him. She caught up to me after meeting with the Yonbi and Gobi. It was interesting to fight someone young and capable of the particle style. We got tangled up in each other and hormones got the best of us, Naruto says. Oh, the irony is not lost on us either. I'm the granddaughter of the Onoki and he's the son of the Kiroi Senko. That's a tragic love story in the making, Kurotsuchi adds. Naruto lifts his glasses and rubs his eyes, causing both Tsunade and Hinata to gasp. That's the Rinnegan but slightly different, Tsunade says, and Naruto nods. Yeah, I got it from Sasuke. It's his six-path yin power, Naruto says. Speaking of Konoha, where's Itachi? Naruto asks. Resting with that Konan woman. So what happened? Hinata says. After capturing Jiraiya, Itachi used her Hiraishin kunai. She had been found out while saving Konan. Things went sideways, but I managed to finish off the Akatsuki and avenge my parents and Kurama, Naruto explains, shocking all three. Was it Madara? Tsunade asks and Naruto shakes his head. It was Obito Uchiha, a student of my dad, but he was trained by Madara. He used a technique called Izanagi to cheat death, Naruto replies. It's a jutsu that Danzo knows as well, Itachi says, coming down from the upstairs rooms. Tsunade bites her nail with a growl. That could complicate things, she says. Not necessarily. He can only use it a set number of times, but Naruto-kun's speed can negate that along with his newly acquired Rinnegan, Itachi explains, with a slight cough. You pushed yourself too much, Naruto chides and Itachi waves her hand. Just a little, Itachi replies. You look like your mother Makoto, Tsunade states. Yes. Mother collaborated with Kushina-sama to create a seal to hide my gender from the likes of father and the council. Only them and Sarutobi-sama knew the truth. Not even Shisui knew, Itachi says, whispering the last. Anyway, I should head back. Jiraiya is in a stasis scroll. I obliterated the Anbu's bodies, Kurotsuchi states, tossing him a scroll. Bye boy, Kurotsuchi says and sinks into the ground. Bye girl. Naruto muses and rubs his head, now that the major obstacles are out of the way. Phase 2 can begin, he adds. Phase 2, Hinata asks and Naruto tosses the scroll up and down in his hand. We're gonna spark a war, Naruto replies. How are you gonna pull that off? Tsunade asks. Simple. Jiraiya is going to kill the Sandaime Tsuchikage, Naruto says, shocking both. How? Tsunade asks. We will use a jutsu called Kotoamatsukami to alter Jiraiya's memories. However, Danzo also can use this jutsu, but since he can't use it at will due to his body, Itachi explains. Whose Sharingan eyes have that power? Hinata asks. Shisui Uchiha. Danzo coveted his eyes and managed to steal one, but Shisui escaped and gave me the other before committing suicide, Itachi explains, sadly. Danzo is truly a blight on the world, Tsunade says. Naruto creates a clone and it heads upstairs for Konan. Let's head back. We'll use the crow, he says, grasping Hinata's shoulder, and she grabs Tsunade as she grabs Itachi and vanish. 1 week later, Onoki of the both scales and Sandaime Tsuchikage sits at his desk as the sun sets. Damn back, he thought, feeling it pop and doubling him over. He is a very short, old man with a triangular beard and a mustache that had angular corners, a big red nose and thick eyebrows. The top of his head was completely bald, although, he had long white hair on the lower half of his head which is styled in a traditional Chanmage haircut, the back of which was tied with a yellow ribbon into a topknot. A soak. Then turn in early, Onoki says, tossing the report of Deidara's death. The old fence-sitter considered who had killed Deidara. This ghost is becoming more and more of a threat. So much Konoha is sniffing around him. I should consider Kurotsuchi's plan of sending Han and Roshi after him, he thought, floating around his desk. Onoki made it few feet before pain explodes from his lower back, but the source being a dual-tip kunai blade. Onoki spits up blood as the assailant wrenches the blade out and he collapses. Who are you? Onoki sputters, clutching the wound. You can't fool me, demon. If you won't be Konoha's weapon, then die, the assailant shouts. Onoki musters the last of his strength to form his particle style, but only enough to erase his killer's weapon arm. The door bursts open as the rotund Akatsuchi rushes in and quickly subdues the intruder. Sandame Samadani, Akatsuchi shouts. He is a large and imposing man, with dark eyes and black hair that spikes out at the back from underneath his bandana-styled forehead protector. He also has large cheeks, and a plump nose which give him an overall look of constant joviality. He wears the red Iwagakure uniform which has both its sleeves, underneath his flak jacket, and accentuates it with a yellow scarf which he wraps around his neck. Akatsuchi. Itsuke Konoha, Onoki says, one eye closed in pain. Akatsuchi rips the hood from the intruder, revealing Jiraiya the gallant. Gramps, Kurotsuchi shouts, bursting through and rushing to his side. Kuro Kurotsuchi. I name you Yondaime. Make them, Onoki starts, but his eyes widen, seeing the slight smirk on her face. Don't worry, grandfather. Konoha will pay for their arrogance, Kurotsuchi says. Onoki's head leans back as his last breaths leave him. Get that bastard out of here and call father, Kurotsuchi shouts, holding Onoki to her body. Sorry Gramps, but I know you would against this, but Naruto and I will the endless battles, Kurotsuchi thought, tears running down her cheek.